What's up guys, my name is Ace, and yesterday we got quite an important update in Call of Duty Vanguard for anybody that's grinding through camo challenges, as well as a little bit of spawn tuning, and they've also finally fixed the suppressors on the Armaguerra 43, and we'll just start it off with those ones since we can blast through those pretty quickly. The camo challenge part is what I want to focus on for most of the video. But with the new SMG, previously, if you used a suppressor on this, for you, it would make literally zero sound. Now, the enemies would still hear it as if it was a normal suppressed weapon, but it was really jarring on your end while using a suppressor because you couldn't hear your gun firing, and they have fixed that with yesterday's update. Additionally, when it comes to spawns, on Tuscan, they adjusted some of the hardpoint spawns, as well as just the initial spawn points on Control. And then on Gavutu Control, they made a few adjustments to the spawn logic as well. Unfortunately, no word on any more widespread changes at this point, like the spawns that we saw in the experimental playlist from a week or two back. We don't know if and when those are going to be coming to the full game. And with that, we can finally talk about the primary topic of today's video, and this is they have adjusted Longshot as well as Headshot Camo requirements for pretty much every gun in the game. And with both of these, they essentially just cut them in half for most, if not all, of the guns in the game. So previously, if you needed 100 Longshots to complete a full set of camos, now you only need 50, and the same thing goes with headshots. This went from 100 on a lot of guns down to 50. Now, at the time of recording this video, which is yesterday as you're watching it right now, while this change did go through in the menus and you can see the new challenge requirements of just 50 instead of 100, things appear to be bugged out and now they're not tracking properly or they're just not displaying properly in the menus. I don't really know what's going on, but there's some bug that was introduced with this. I'm sure they'll get that worked out at some point in the near future, hopefully sooner rather than later. But for the rest of the video, we're just going to be talking about this change with the assumption that they're going to get this fixed and worked out so it'll be working properly. But with this change, this really significantly cuts down on the amount of time and investment required to unlock the atomic camo in Vanguard. Just by a really quick and basic calculation, this might be off by a little bit. Assuming you're doing things efficiently, and if a gun has two different long shot categories, one where it's just basic long shots, the other one requires you to use attachment combos, assuming you're doing that in the efficient way by doing both of those at the same time, this is going to cut down on the number of long shots needed for atomic by about 1,600. And the same thing goes for headshots. This will cut down by about 1,600 headshots overall. And that's huge. Just think about how much time and investment it takes to get 1,600 long shots, especially with many of those long shots having to be from SMGs or pistols, for instance. That is a pretty crazy change to the atomic grind, and it's going to become way more accessible from now on. And with this, I've noticed a fairly mixed reaction, which is no surprise whatsoever if you're going to be significantly changing the requirements for that big mastery camo this late in the game's life cycle. We're about 5 or 6 months in at this point. That's obviously going to upset a lot of people that completed atomic with the previous requirements that were much more demanding. Especially for those people that just recently completed it. That must really suck if you've been grinding hard and investing hours and hours of your time, only for them to cut back on that, basically invalidating all that time and effort you put in. So that's the one side of it, and I wanted to make sure I acknowledge that because, yeah, that must suck a little bit, especially if you recently completed it. I would be pretty bummed out as well. Outside of that though, I'm seeing a generally positive response from the community when it comes to this change. And I've even seen a lot of people that have dropped off of Vanguard saying that they're actually going to come back and complete atomic camo now because it looks a lot more reasonable. Because when they first started grinding for it, or they just looked at the challenges, they just decided that it was way too much investment for them to even consider completing it. So overall, I do think this was a healthy change for Vanguard, especially when it comes to the long shots. When it comes to headshots, in my opinion, 100 headshots for all of the guns in the game, with the exception maybe being shotguns, I think is totally reasonable. And the main reason I feel that way is when it comes to headshots, it doesn't really significantly limit how you approach that challenge or how you play the game. The only difference is, instead of aiming for enemies' bodies, you now want to try to aim for their head. And 100 to 150 headshots per gun is very reasonable in my mind, and it's pretty much in line with all older Call of Duty games. Whereas on the long shot side of things, I have talked about this quite a bit recently. I'm very happy to see them make changes here because this is the type of challenge that does significantly limit your playstyle ability if you want to complete this efficiently. And unfortunately, that playstyle that is essentially required for any sort of efficiency is generally not going to be a playstyle that leads to healthy gameplay, especially in objective game modes, where a lot of people tend to gravitate toward because the spawns tend to be a bit more predictable, and you also tend to get enemies that move around a bit more. So having these excessive long shots, I feel, was harming the gameplay experience, not only for the person that was stuck sitting in one spot, pre-aiming a lane just to pick people off for long shots. That's a really tedious and sort of boring way to play the game, in my opinion, but also for that player's teammates. Because, as many of you I'm sure are aware, when it comes to people dedicating themselves to completing that final camo, the camo comes first. That comes before anything. And it kind of has to if you want to complete the camo challenges with any sort of efficiency. So if I have to camp a lane and completely ignore the objective all game, just so I can maximize the number of long shots I can get within a period of time, I'm going to do that even if it means I'm screwing my team over. So by significantly cutting down on the number of long shots required, I think this is going to have a healthy long-term impact on the game. Additionally, like I said earlier, it looks like this is actually going to be bringing some players back into Vanguard, and that's something that Vanguard desperately needs at this point. There is very little interest in the game at this point based on what I've seen, and I honestly can't remember ever seeing a Call of Duty this low in popularity online throughout my entire YouTube career. Even Infinite Warfare, from what I remember, was a bit more popular than we're seeing with Vanguard at this point. So I'm all for anything that's going to keep the current player base a little bit more engaged with the gameplay, as well as anything that may potentially bring back players that have dropped off of the game entirely. Now, at the same time, of course, it does suck for those players that already have Atomic, and I think there is a fairly simple solution to this that I don't think would require too much effort on the developer's end. Maybe I'm mistaken on this, but I feel like maybe they could do something for anybody that's earned Atomic before yesterday's date. Maybe award them with something special. It could be as simple as like a weapon charm that's exclusive to anybody that earned Atomic before yesterday's date. Or maybe even a slightly different variant of the Atomic Camo that shows that they earned this before this big change that made Atomic way easier. I think that would be a totally fair compromise that would help alleviate that issue for those people that do feel like this was a slap in the face after they've already completed Atomic. But that is just my opinion on that. One last note here, I'm really hoping that Infinity Ward is paying attention to what happened with Vanguard's camo challenges. I really don't want to see a similar situation to this in the future where the camo challenges launch in a ridiculous state and then several months down the road they have to significantly change the camo requirements, because that does create a bit of a divide in the community, and it can be obviously frustrating to those that complete it with the more difficult challenge set. So here's to hoping that Modern Warfare 2022 is going to learn from these mistakes and launch with very reasonable camo requirements for their Mastery Camo. Now, of course, all of this is just my thoughts on this camo challenge situation. This is where I want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. What do you think about the fact that they've effectively cut the number of long shots and headshots required in half in order to unlock Atomic Camo? Do you think this was a good change that they made? Is this something that's maybe going to increase your playtime or bring you back into Vanguard? Are you somebody that has already unlocked Atomic and you're really upset about this change? Or are you kind of in the camp of this is just too little too late? Just let me know all of those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.